Today I want to share with you a set of cards that I've created using the new release from the Not Too Shabby shop. I will link below to all of these items and it will be my affiliate link, so I really appreciate if you decide to shop that you use my affiliate links to shop. And thank you so much to all of you who have been using my affiliate links to shop. It really does help out my channel. So I'm just showing you now all of the items that's in the release. There are 2 new ephemera packs, 2 new paper packs, and then this adorable stamp set. The spring stamp set is called Enjoy the Ride. There's a lot of cute images on it for spring as well as sentiments. And today I'll be using some of those images. And then my favorite in this release is this little cute hedgehog. That'll be available in the shop as well as these cottage bloom card fronts. I'm not going to show you all of these today, like flip through them, because I will have other videos coming out using these items. Today I'm going to use the Enjoy the Ride stamp set, the Time for Spring paper pad, as well as the Time for Spring ephemera pack, and I will be adding some enamel dots to my cards. So I'm starting out with a piece of the paper from the Time for Spring paper pack, and I've cut it down to 5 1/4 by 4. And so now what I want to do is I just want to cut out a oval from the center of this paper. So I'm putting the oval more, centering it up from side to side, but more towards the top of the piece of paper. And you will notice that I'm just using some washi tape to hold down my die cuts, or my dies. And I do try to put the washi tape to the center of the die because I'm not going to use this cutout. So I'm going to try to save it. But if it gets torn, it's not that big a deal because that's not part of this card. The main thing for this card is I want this piece of paper to have an oval cut out of it. So I've gone ahead and I cut a piece of white cardstock that measures 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to lay that underneath my piece of paper that I've cut the oval out of. Now I flipped the paper over to the back side, and you can see here I've already done this and had to edit that out because I knew you didn't want to sit through all of my mistakes today. But I had grabbed the wrong brush and I inked it incorrectly. And so I had a friend who is really the one who got me into card making. And she used to say when you messed up stamping or whatever, she would say, well, that's magic paper. Magical paper, just flip it over. So that's what I've done today. I've just flipped the white cardstock over and I'm starting over. And what I'm doing is I'm just inking a little scene to be inside of my oval. So the oval is going to frame out the scene. So this is actually the back side of the printed paper that I'm going to use. So you'll never see this, the ink that's on the printed paper here, you'll never see that when I flip it back over and use it on the front of my card. But instead of making a stencil, I decided that I would just use this card front as my stencil. So I'm just going to add some green for the grass at the bottom, and then I'm going to come in with some light blue for the sky, and I'm going to keep it very light. And then I'm going to come in with just a little bit of yellow just to make it look like the sun is peeking, you know, through the frame there, just to have a good spring summery scene. And I am going to keep the blue fairly light for my background. And it shows up more in person than it does on camera. And I'm not really sure why, but you can see it's a very light blue there. I did forget to mention at the beginning that I'm going to also use the butterfly stamp from this new stamp set. I love butterflies, so any stamp set with a butterfly makes me happy. So I love this one. It has the little trail coming off of it to look like the butterfly is flying up through there. And then there's a few little flowers. And so I just imagine the spring, as you know, with several of us who's got allergies, it's not as fun to see, but the blooms that's flying in the air when the wind's blowing. So that's what I imagine that these are. So I'm just going to stamp out the butterfly onto my scene. And I'm trying to decide, do I want it on the right-hand side or the left-hand side? So I'm just going to stamp it here towards the edge of the left. And I'm going to stamp just a little bit of the butterfly off of the edge so it looks like it's coming into frame instead of just being out in the frame. But if you're following along and making this card, you can do whatever you want. Put it on either side that you want. So here we have our image. I am going to color in the butterfly using a little bit of yellow, and then I will add a little bit of orange accents to the butterfly as well. But I will tell you, I do come back later and I color in the butterfly with a little bit of turquoise instead of the yellow. So the butterfly will be turquoise and orange in the end. And you'll see that later. But I do not color him in on camera, so I thought I would go ahead and tell you that I made that change. So now I'm ready to layer everything up. So I want to have my little fence on the inside of the frame, kind of like we're looking through to this little scenery. So I just audition it, make sure I have the fence where I want it, and then I'm just going to add it to my cardstock. Now I do leave it on my little sticky mat here because it does help to keep everything still while I'm working with it. I forget to bring this one out, but a lot of the times I forget to bring my sticky mat out, but it really is helpful if you remember to bring it out and use it because your card base doesn't slip around. Well, this is my card base, but your card piece doesn't slip around when you're working with it. So now we have all of our pieces ready to put the card together. So I have my ephemera piece that I'm going to be using, and then I've gone ahead and cut a piece of mint green paper that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have my card base, and then I cut this piece down to measure 3 3/4 by 5. So I did change it a bit. And so this ephemera piece comes from the Time for Spring ephemera pack. And so I'm just going to layer everything up now. I like to go ahead and layer all of my pieces before I add it to the card base in case I make any mistakes. So I'm just going to pop the girl up onto the card using some foam tape. And then I'm going to add a few of the new enamel dots. I love using enamel dots on my cards. And so I love that when you can get those to match the paper packs that you have. So now everything is done. I'm ready to just attach this to my card front, and card number 1 is complete. So we've gotten warmed up making cards, so now let's go through and see what all we can make using this paper pack and the ephemera pack. I do love how this one turned out. Spring is one of my favorite seasons, so I love creating cards for spring. And I think this one will be a birthday card. I did not add a sentiment yet, and I can come back and add a sentiment later. Because like I say in all my videos, I like to keep a lot of them sentiment free, so I can use them for whatever. Okay, so here is the boots that I cut out and colored. So I'm going to use that on my next card. So I've gone ahead and cut out with some, just die cut some rectangles out. And I just have some nesting dies that are rectangular, so I just cut out 2 that are, you know, next to each other on the die set. And then I've cut out a piece of paper that measures 1 1/2 by 4. And then I have my background piece that measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then I'm using a pink card base this time. And so I just create my own card base with cardstock. So that's what I did for this one. So it measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And so this one is going to come together very quickly. You can just layer it all up super quick. And if you ever have trouble with the measurements, let me know in the comments below. I could type them out, but one good thing to do when I'm watching a video and I'm following along crafting, I'll just rewind and pause. And so you can slow the videos down as well if it's going too fast, if you really want to, if you're crafting and trying to follow along. But most of the cards today I am creating are very simple. It's just using this new paper pack. I think they look really cute. So I'm just going to layer my little 1 1/2 by 4 piece across my card. And then I'm just going to add the pink rectangle. And then I'm going to come in with the white rectangle. And instead of layering it as a rectangle, I'm just going to turn that one as a diamond so that it fits right in the center of my square. Kind of thinking outside the box. I like to try to find different ways to use my dies instead of just one basic way. So that's one way to do it is rotate your dies around, get more use out of them. And then I'm just going to layer the boots in the center of the card. And for this one again, I'm not going to add a sentiment because I'm thinking this would make a great thank you card, but I will decide when I decide to send it what needs to have on it. Okay, so we're already on card number 3 now. So for card number 3, I have quite a few pieces that I have cut out. But what I've decided to do is come in and just rough up the edges with this Tim Holtz tool that you can use. I can't remember the name of it, but it's just made to rough up edges of cardstock. So I'm just roughing up the edges on some of the paper. So the colored cardstock and the cream colored cardstock. The rest I am not roughing up. And then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and just add decorative stitches around all of the printed paper squares. So I have 2 different size squares, but 5 squares in total, and I'll give you those measurements in just a moment. But I'm just going to stitch around those, and this is just for looks. And you have to keep in mind with sewing paper, you do need to change your tension to match paper. But also keep in mind, sewing paper is so different from sewing fabric. Fabric, you want all of your stitches to be perfect, but sewing paper, it looks really good just to have rough looking stitches. So you don't go for perfection on this. So for the first square that I cut, this one is a 3-inch square. And so then I've cut a piece of cardstock, brown cardstock, to go behind it that measures 3 1/8. So for the next square size, that square measures 2 1/8. And then I've cut the brown cardstock to measure 2 1/4. And so I'm just laying those up. So you can see here, I am using my pressing tool here to really press down the square to the craft paper. And that's because when you have the stitches, it does raise it up a bit. So you want to press down really good to get those stitches sticking really good down so that your squares don't peel up. So I've cut 4 squares that measure 2 1/8. And then I've cut 4 of the craft cardstock that measures 2 1/4. So now I'm just layering my 4 3/4 cardstock to my 5-inch square card. And then I'm just going to bring in all of these little squares and just try to make sure they have the same distance from each edge and from each other. So you can see here as I layer those in the center. And then I'm going to layer the 3-inch square, or it's actually with the cardstock 3 1/8 inch square, to the center of my card. And I've just mixed up several of the papers from the paper pack. And then I've stamped out Bloom with Grace and cut that out. And I'm going to add that, as well as a piece of the ephemera piece. It's just flowers in the shape of a heart. And then I'm going to add the sentiment to the top of the ephemera piece. And that is our next card completed. And I've lost count how many cards we've created now. I think this is card number 3. So it's time to move on to card number 4. So for card number 4, I've gone ahead and cut out all of my pieces. Okay, so for our next card, I've gone ahead and cut out all the pieces. And this one, I have cut the craft cardstock to measure 5 by 5 1/2. So we need to score this piece before we move on with the card. So I'm going to score it at 3/4 of an inch. So that will give us a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card is normal. So it's our normal card size, and it'll fit in all of our envelopes just right. And so I'm just going to fold in on that score line. And so then I just add glue to the inside of that fold. Now I've made a card similar to this in one of my Fun Fold videos, and this one's so that you can see both sides of your cardstock, and I thought that would be great for this paper pack. So then I'm just bringing in my piece of cardstock that I've cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm just going to slide it up to the edge there where the score line is, and then press my folded edge down. You can see here I have a little bit of the cardstock sticking over the craft paper. So what I'll do is I'll just come in and trim that off. But you can see there, the inside of your card is beautiful as well. So that little edge, you could use a pair of scissors, or you can use your paper trimmer to trim it off. I'm just going to use this little paper trimmer. It's easier for me just to chop it off with it. But do what's easiest for you. And so I've cut a piece of cardstock that measures 3/4 by 5 1/2. And now I'm just going to add a piece of ribbon down that strip. And then I'm going to tie a little bitty bow to add to the center of that piece as well. Now to add the bow to the center of that piece, I am going to bring in some Fabri-Tac because I was in a hurry and I really wanted it to dry quickly. The Fabri-Tac seems to grab anything that's ribbon on ribbon or fabric on fabric really quickly. So I'm just going to use my Fabri-Tac today to add the bow, and that way it doesn't take as long to dry. I really love this new spring release. All of the colors in here are just perfect for me. I love all the pinks and the blues, and so I am in love with this. Now, be sure to check back on my channel. I am going to be using the other products in the release. I'll be using the Teacups and Petals and the French Toile. Help me below if I'm not saying that correctly. Help me with the correct pronunciation below for that one. But I'm going to be using that paper as well to make a set of cards. But today I really wanted to play with the spring set first, and then I'll come back with that set and make a set of cards. And then the card fronts. I've never used card fronts before, so the Cottage Bloom card fronts, I'm excited to use those because it's already cut and ready for you. So all you have to do is add it to the front of your card. You could just add it to the front of your card and add a sentiment, or add some ephemera piece or stamped image to it. So we'll see what we create with those. So I will come back with that. So I have 2 more videos coming out using this release over the next month. So be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and be sure to check back for those videos. So back to this card, I have gone ahead and cut out an oval piece, die cut that out. I added a little bit of pink ink to the center of that, and then I'm going to just put that on the center of my card and then layer it up with this little bunny from the Time for Spring ephemera pack. This is one of my favorite images from this ephemera pack. I love bunnies, and so I thought this was absolutely adorable with him holding that little rose. And of course, I'm going to come back and add some more of the bling, the enamel dots to the front of my card. So that is our completed card. I think it's absolutely adorable. I will add a white cardstock to the inside of this one when I write my note, but I always wait till I write my notes before I add the piece to the inside of my card. So now for this card, I am just using scraps. This was left over from the other cards, so I'm going to make a card with the scraps. And the reason I wanted to use this scrap to make a card, I'm going to use this piece of scrap as my focal point. I didn't plan it this way when I was cutting my paper, but when I saw this scrap with that little bunny in the very center, I thought this definitely has to be a focal point for my card. And the little bird up there is very cute, and the flowers, everything's cute on this, but that bunny being the center I thought was absolutely perfect for this card. So this strip here, I'm not even sure what it measures. It was just a piece of scrap left over. So what I did is I cut both of them to the same length, and I'm thinking they're around around 5 1/4 in length, so that they would work great on the front of the card. And then I've just gone ahead and cut out this little piece of this little strip here that has like the little ruffles, the little lacy look. I've gone ahead and cut that out. I'm just adding that to the card as well. A very simple card, but I think it's very cute. I think this one would be great for a baby shower. So I didn't add any sentiments on it yet because I don't know of anybody having a baby shower. So I'll probably turn this one into another little thanking of you note, or when I add cards to packages and things, then this may be one of the cards that I add. So this card was very quick to put together, but absolutely adorable, and I may even make a set of cards like this. So here are our cards that we've completed so far. Don't go away yet because I decided to make a bonus card, and I'll show you that in just a moment. But I just want to show you a close-up of each one of the cards that we created in this video, and they're all so different from each other, but I thought about doing the same sketch and just mixing it up, but I really wanted to play with this set and just create cards that I wanted to create. So some of these ideas, I saw cards on Pinterest. Some of them are just my ideas, what I've thrown together with dies and things that I have in my craft room. But I had so much fun putting these together, and actually they did not take me that long. Once I had all my pieces cut and ready to go, and I knew what the sketch I wanted to use or how I wanted the card to go together, it didn't take long at all to put these together. So since you have all the measurements now, it wouldn't take you long to follow along and put these together. Okay, so I'm bringing in more scraps. These are more scrap strips that was left over, and I really hate to have scraps because a lot of times I never come back and use them. I just cut more paper, or I lose them, or they stay piled up on my desk. So what I decided to do is let's make a card with the scraps. So I wanted to color in that hedgehog anyway. So I've colored in the hedgehog. You can see in the upper right hand corner in the video. I went ahead and colored that little hedgehog in, and then I have just cut out a scalloped circle and added that to the back of the hedgehog. And now I'm just gluing strips that I found, the scraps left over. I'm just gluing those strips together. And then I'm going to add this to my card front. But as you can see, I just took a basic card front and ran it through my die cutting machine to add those little scalloped edges to the front of my card. Because these scraps, I didn't have enough scraps to make it go all the way across my card. It did not measure, 4 or 4 1/4. So what I decided to do was, let's just alter the card for it. So I just used a die to add those little scalloped edges. I'm sure if you have some of those punches, you could do the same thing. There's punches, you know, that you can add scalloped edges. Just find whatever you have, and you could do the same with yours. And so I really love how that turns out. I don't know why I've never done that before, but, you know, out of necessity, trying to figure out how to make a card, I came up with it. So I will be doing that technique again. And so then I'm just adding my little hedgehog to the front, and then I've used the Enjoy the Ride stamp set and stamped and cut out the Hello Spring, and I'm adding that to the front as well. And now I'm bringing out another piece of cardstock and making more scraps. But it's not going to be it's going to be a big scrap, so it'll be enough left that I can make a card or more with that. So it's not really a scrap. I'm cutting off a 1/2 inch from the edge of the cardstock, and then I'm just going to put that on the inside of my card so that the little scalloped edge shows up better. And so I just take and cut it, glue it down, and then for me it's easier, instead of having to figure out measurements, then I will just trim off the excess once I have it glued down. And I'm absolutely in love with this little hedgehog. I think it is absolutely adorable. And it was a lot of fun to color in too. I love how this card turned out. This is probably one of my favorite cards, and it was just a last-minute card. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you've enjoyed seeing me create these cards and they inspire you to create today. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.